everybody's mic back on?
All right, we'll call this meeting of the Buckfield Sumner Solid Waste Committee to order on November 21st, 2025 at 6:38 p.m. And we have a quorum. Public comment. Hearing none. Yeah. Approval of the September 23rd, 2025 Solid Waste Committee meeting minutes.
This the one you sent like last week, last Friday?
I sent it to you yesterday.
I haven't read it. So didn't we get some? Didn't we get an email from?
That was regarding what we're going to talk about later.
Okay.
I do the solid waste meetings just like I do the Buckfield meetings, and I think Diane does the Sumner meetings. We record the meetings, and then most of this is transcribed directly from that. So there's a little bit more information that would normally be there, but that's just what was recorded.
Yep.
The key thing is the votes, which at the last meeting obviously was approval of the minutes, fees.
Right.
There's a lot of discussion about the swap shop closure, but most of that was just public comment and discussion. In December, I don't understand it.
Yeah, look at that. Ugh. Good. So I'll make a motion. We approve the September 2023, September 23rd, 2025 Solid Waste Committee meeting minutes.
1 second.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor, bye-bye. Yep. Thank you. Solid waste budget and bank account update.
So I put this in here because it is going to play into your next agenda item. So as we discussed at the last meeting, last year's overage on solid waste was $57,631.74. That's been withdrawn from the account. We've added in some iron cardboard revenue as well as the disposal fees collected to date since November 1st, leaving us with a solid waste balance at the bottom right-hand corner of $76,185.12. The overall account balance is $88,232.05, which includes $12,046.93, which is specifically for the swap shop. And then I just included a copy of the budget on the next page to show where we're at as of yesterday. We're currently at 39.74%. So about 40% with 7 months left to go. And I don't think this factors in the most recent invoice from Archie's. So yeah, basically 40% is where we'll be at once that gets processed on the 2nd. So we're not as bad off as it could be. So it's looking all right now, but I don't want to jinx anything. So that's where we're at. Anybody have any questions on that?
Nope. Thank you. You don't need to vote on it, do you?
No.
Just review.
I just wanted you guys to see what's in the bank account before we get to the next question.
All right. Main waste to energy special assessment.
So this is what I emailed you last week. I know I had talked to you guys about the special assessment we got from Main Waste to Energy at the beginning of the year after our budget was already approved. And that original special assessment was $29,000. Since then, a lot's happened. The City of Auburn requested more information from Main Waste to Energy to justify the special assessment that they got of $660,000. And then in doing that, somehow everything got recalculated and now Auburn owes 880,000 and we now owe 38,000. And as you all know, we all own a share of that. Obviously, Auburn's the biggest stockholder in that whole organizational structure. But what that means for us is originally we were told we would have till April to pay that $29,000 assessment. And now it's turned into, we have net 15 to pay 38,935.62. And that invoice date was on 11/11, which was 10 days ago. In the agreement, we're liable for their liabilities. So, I mean, we have to pay it, but I couldn't take the money out of the solid waste bank account without the approval of you guys. So that's why we're here tonight.
I like county tax, we don't really have a choice.
In its current structure, you're absolutely correct. You know, there's not much we can do about it. I know, Jeff, you were elected what, last June? So you just got started and then you became the rep, and I know you've gone to a few meetings, and I know my first meeting there was all of a sudden there was issues going on financially. They didn't have any cash reserves. They'd already depleted it because of outages, and they're supposed to maintain, I think, 5 to 6 million, and there's nothing there.
So, sorry, I'm sorry. It just looked like they were cleaning their facility, and because of that, they weren't able to burn at peak efficiency, and then they lost out on the power. That's from what it looked like if you go back and read John King's emails.
Yeah, so essentially, anytime they had a cleaning or a repair or something like that, whenever main waste energy is down, they call it an outage. And if they're not generating power, they get billed by CMP or whoever it is to cover that period of outage. So the longer they're out, the more money it costs, and that just burned through their reserves. Personally, looking at it from somebody that wasn't involved in the beginning, is main waste energy didn't increase their rates for members as they should have to keep up and maintain those cash reserves, so that when something like this happened, they could cover it. The original agreement was that they were going to maintain that 5 to 6 million, but it's now 20 to 30 years later, and really that 5 to 6 million should be more like 10 million, you know, just to account for increased costs and everything else. So we've had a great deal for the last 30 years, but as you all witnessed at the beginning of this year, they spiked our tipping fees for just like regular household waste from $47 to $54, with the warning that next year it's going to be well over 60. And it's stuff that they should have done years ago to make sure that they were staying up with it. They were increasing commercial rates and non-member rates, but they weren't increasing ours.
Right.
So I would hope that this is the only special assessment we get, but with everything that's been going on since I've been I was appointed on the board, I don't know. You know, they could come out in 4 months and say they have another special assessment, because a lot of this is driven by all the invoices that I attached that are unpaid invoices that need to be paid. So if they get into a situation where they don't have the money to cover unpaid invoices, the agreement allows them to come back to us. The downfall with that is, right, we're talking 38,935, and we've got a bank account with 76,185. So they're quickly depleting what we have in savings. So we have two ways to look at that. Is, you know, if they come at us with another special assessment, that's going to be a problem. But then if these increased rates all across the board that came out after the budget was approved pushes us over budget, there's nothing to cover that overage. So now Buckfield and Sumner are going to go to their voters and ask to cover that overage. So it's just something to be aware of. I mean, we have to pay this bill, but I just want you all to be aware of where we're at right now. I asked the select board at our last meeting to replace me on that committee with Glenn Holmes. He was involved in all this in the beginning, but also Auburn is really driving, trying to get to the bottom of what's going on over there, whether it's a management issue or whatever. He's got good relationships with Auburn. He works at the city of Auburn, but he's also a Buckfield resident. There was nothing in the bylaws that said that a resident couldn't be our director. So the Buckfield board appointed him to take my place on that board. And then the next meeting that they have, he'll be there. But, so Jeff, if you have any questions pertaining to MWAC or MWE, you know, he's a
So
good,
I guess the facility now this agreement was joined in 1985, correct?
yeah, so
Something like
40
that.
years
So-
ago.
Okay, yeah, so when I was like one.
Yeah.
So, so we have, is there any way we should have an expectation and our constituents should have an expectation that these outages are going to continue to happen? It's an aging facility. So do we stick with it? Like, can we get out? Don't answer that question yet. Do we need to get out?
Yeah.
I would rather pay money in overages than be swimming in trash. So, if we did get out, are there any alternatives, or is this just something that, like, is this a timeshare that we bought into and we're going down on that Titanic and it just, we got to just ride that wave, sort of speak.
Right. And I don't have those answers, you know what I mean? Like this,
Yeah.
prior to me getting on the board, Weldon, our former public works director, was the director. So I kind of wasn't privy to, they don't share the information elsewhere. They usually send it to the director. And unless it gets to my desk, I didn't see it. So my first meeting was that first meeting they were talking about how they didn't have any cash reserves. And that was why they had to increase price, increase rates. Maybe increasing the rate solves the problem. It replenishes the reserves. But I think what they said was for every dollar per ton that they increase the rates, it only adds $19,000 to the reserve. So if you need to get back to $5 million, how many dollars per ton do you have to raise that? Which is why, like I said, Auburn's really getting into it. I know Glenn will dig into it and try to get the information that you're looking for. And like I said, I mean, I can give you his contact information. He'd be a good person to talk to about how all this started. And I mean, he understands it better.
No, it sounds like a great deal. And I'm not even advocating that we need to leave. I just want to know what, because when folks ask us, what's going on, well, these are the reasons why. And if I can think of them, smarter people than me are going to ask the same.
So, I mean, you look at the situation with Hartford, right? Hartford approached us about joining our transfer station, which obviously they chose not to join MWAC back in the 80s. They contract with a contractor, Archie's, who we use to haul our trash, and then they go to Main Waste and dispose of it at a higher rate than what we pay. So I think what really triggered me when I started looking at all this was in 1990, you go back in our town report, we were paying $47 a ton to dispose of trash. And then in 2024, we were paying $47 a ton. And that was before I went to this meeting and was like, oh,
That's why you're out of cash. Yeah.
So, I mean, can it be turned around? I hope so. Cause like I said, we're in it, mine it, Auburn, Poland. I mean, there's a ton of towns that are into this.
I think your answer is $263.
Yeah. So just to replenish
Just to replenish
the 5 million, and we're saying that they should have 10. Now, obviously that email that I forwarded to you, and I think you get a copy of anyways, but they said they're now into their money making season, or this is when they start generating revenue. So hopefully this won't be an issue.
So go home and turn those electric heaters on, turn that power up.
I mean, you got to pay the bill. I want everybody to know that, we're going to be down quite a bit on this bank account. And since I've worked here in this role, this account has never dropped below $100,000. So I get a little nervous when I see that.
Yeah, because it's going to be down to less than 30.
I mean, we do, if you look at it for the first 4 months, 5 months of the year, we've brought in what? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. We brought in about 10 grand. We average about 20 to 22 grand worth of iron revenue.
We got to clean up the house.
So I mean, it's coming in, but the interest, the $500 a month in interest that we've been accruing is not going to be there anymore because now we're down to 30 grand.
Yeah.
So
So
have to be very careful next year, especially when we budget for the transfer station, that we are right where we need to be. And that's why at the last meeting when we discussed fees and there was a lot of pushback on that, what are we going to do?
everywhere is fees. You know, when I was in the military, I transferred all across the country. Every single place I lived in had fees. You know, it's just a standard way that most folks handle their trash. And some people, they pay for a sticker. They pay $35-$40 for a sticker, and then they show up and they get weighed, and then they pay a ticket there too. I'm not saying I'm advocating that at all.
No.
But there's a realistic bill for trash.
Well, we have to change something, because if we don't do something, then the alternative is, and I told Bob this not too long ago, after knowing all of the increases that came in after the budget was passed, and then the issues with main waste, and then the special assessments, had I written that solid waste budget today versus when I did it, it would be almost $100,000 higher than it was last year. And that was already an increase, because we were at 240 and we jumped up to 308. So you're talking almost $400,000 price tag on solid waste if we didn't do the feed. Obviously it's only been going on for 21 days. And obviously there's some obstacles there. We've got older guys there. They're trying to chase whatever, catch up with whatever they can. We've got honest people that come in and pay for their tickets, and then they turn them in. They've collected about $600 in fees on mattresses and various other stuff so far this year. And we're only in the first 20 days. But it's definitely going to be necessary to make sure that we don't end up in a situation where we have to go before the voters and ask to cover an overage on something that we should have had.
I'll bring it up on Tuesday, and we'll just start plugging it, just so it's not, nobody is caught unawares when the time comes. That being said, these extra bills that are depleting the fund that we have, should we look at at what point should we look at Sumner's funds to replenish that? What I mean to say is these extra funds that we have to pay as per that invoice from 11/11. How much of that bill is Sumner's half, and when do you guys? Are you even looking, or should we even look, or do we want to wait and hold and see on that one?
So what we're looking at is, currently that bank account is 35% of it's yours, 65% of it's ours. So right now there's no money that would need to come from Sumner outside of this account.
Okay.
If they come back to us with another $40,000 one in 3 months, 4 months, that's a conversation we'll have to have then, because there won't be this money. But we've already got a share of Sumner and Buckfield here that can cover this. We just want to,
So we'll just wait and hold and see how things go, and wait for the best, and hoping this is the only one that comes up.
Power.
Right.
Okay. Fair enough.
So, I mean, as far as what's going on, we have it covered. We're just
Getting dangerously low, and
yeah.
All right.
The gas tank's getting empty.
So you need a vote to pay that. How much was it?
It's 50. It's right here.
Bob in there.
Sorry,
38,
38,935 and 62 cents.
52. I'll make a motion that we pay the main waste energy invoice,
Special assessment.
for $38,935.62.
second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Other business? I always look at you, Martha. It's so weird.
Why are the Sumner reps looking at you?
You're famous. So how is everything going at the transfer station now with the I know you mentioned it briefly, but there.
As best they can. I mean, Stanley's doing a good job at trying to get as much as he can.
Yeah. I noticed new signs up.
Signage is up. There's a couple banners that are going up just to remind. I think the election helped with the stickers, at least on Buckfield side. We had signs all over the place. So there's really no reason for, I mean, between the signs out front and that, and then the text messages I've sent, and the emails I've sent, everybody should know that there's a new transfer station sticker. So I did extend it to December 1st because there's a lot of pushback on notification and I had no idea and whatever.
Yep.
So there's still, what, 9 more days for people to come in, get their sticker. And after
Nobody
that,
pays attention until it starts to like really get to me.
yeah, I don't know how it was in Sumner, but that last day was, people were just absolutely livid about the whole thing. And I know for a fact that my clerks have everybody at least once. When George's like, all right, you have the new dump sticker. And usually, no, I got one. Or they didn't hear the new dump sticker.
Mm.
I've got visuals all over the place.
What,
Green means go, red means no.
what do you have, or what is the plan with dismantling the swap shop? What do you have that?
So Public Works has been tied up with the paving projects and hauling winter sand. So I don't think they're going to get to it this fall. So it's most likely going to be in the spring that'll be taken care of. As of right now, it's just closed and
Yeah.
nothing's going in there. And then there's a group of people that are collecting funds to build. Actually, that's one of the things I didn't put on the agenda that I was hoping Azalea would be here for. In Buckfield, and actually I want to talk about Buckfield had created an ad hoc committee specific for the swap shop to plan out a new structure, how it's going to work, whatever.
Same location.
Yeah, depending on how big it's going to be, whatever. That's going to be part of what they're tasked with doing. And then I had provided them with some draft bylaws for that committee and what their specific purpose is. But in it, it says that the members of that committee will be jointly appointed by Buckfield and Sumner. And obviously, these solid waste committee meetings happen so far, few and far between, that what I was thinking was, if we got an application, I'd bring it to the board. If they appoint them, I'll forward it off to you. And at your next meeting, you can verify it on your end, and then they can be on the committee. It's just quicker that way. We do have one application. It was Mark Silber had submitted one. That's the only one I've had so far. Nobody's acted on it yet, but I could forward that stuff to Diane next week so that you can take a look at it for your next meeting and talk about it. Instead of us having to be involved in the whole process, again, we never were supposed to be involved in the process. If it's allowed and it can be built there, great. They need to figure that out. And they need to take some ownership in how it's operated so that you guys don't have to continue to deal with it. And it shouldn't be a tax burden. It shouldn't come at the expense of the taxpayer, is essentially what the bylaws stated.
And that's for just the ad hoc committee.
You're right. So
Look into rebuilding. Structure.
how it's going to be operated, how they're going to fund it. And then from there, once that's all done, that committee will just be, and then it'll be up to those people that run it to do it like it should have been, or like it was done for the last 20 years. Because I know you guys are probably tired of talking about the swap shop.
So are we talking about completely dissolving our I don't want to say relationship, but or just do we have, once this community is established, once this committee is established, they will run it? Or do we want to have the chairman of that committee, whoever is in charge of the swap shop, do we want them to at least be present for these meetings in case there's any issues that can be discussed? Because I felt like while I was on the planning board in Sumner, our meetings with the select board overlapped, and by happenstance, I ended up on these the solid waste disposal committee, sitting in the chairs. And then a lot of the discussion was based off of the swap shop. And
you must have came in right around the time that we started having issues. So, and this is my understanding, that people in this room with more experience than me, but when the swap shop formed and created, it was a process, right? And it was established, obviously, to divert funds away from, divert disposal or trash from the waste stream. But it was created in a way that it was not supposed to come at a liability to the taxpayers. You know what I mean? It wasn't going to be like we'd have to appropriate a certain amount of money specifically to fund the swap shop in its operation.
And we shouldn't even been involved with how teams are getting along or who.
What happened and how the committee got all involved in it was there was a lot of infighting with the volunteers. There was a lot of issues. And what was happening was people were coming into this town office to me to complain about the swap shop constantly. So I brought it to the solid waste committee and they tried to restructure it in a way that, okay, here you go, run with it. And then that didn't work. And
Yeah, we did what, 26 thing policy with all how to handle everything.
new policies, all new guidelines, the new,
Catch those meetings, like I said, by happenstance.
and it didn't resolve the problem. And then when it came back, then it came time to do some repairs and then the structure itself, there was issues with the structure. There was complaints about mold and people potentially getting sick because of the mold. And at that point, the liability just wasn't worth the hassle. So, theoretically, the swap shop should not be something
It
that
won't even be an agenda item. Okay.
I mean, it's totally cool to have them come to a meeting and let you know what they're working on. Obviously, once a year, I need to know how much they're estimating that they're diverted away from the waste stream so that I can report it on my solid waste report. But it really should be a
It shouldn't be a topic of
self-managed.
discussion for 45 minutes at every solid waste committee. I mean, it has.
Right.
It's dominated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been
Yeah.
the primary. We haven't even talked about solid waste business. Like the fact that the policies for the transfer station, I'm in the process right now of updating them because it's been since like 2013 since they've been updated. And there's been some changes in it. The next one, I'll bring it to you for approval so that we can implement it. But like those things have gone to the wayside because we've been too busy talking about the swap shop. So there are some, passionate people in town that have donated and are raising money, which all the power to them. If it can function on that property, I support it. It does divert a certain portion, but it needs to do so at a.
How would, I guess, just like brainstorming out loud or whatever, just my own knowledge, how would that work if we allow funds that are collected for the swap shop, but would have to be a more permanent structure on town property? How we navigate that, I guess. So like, we can't just throw a couple of new containers up there that don't have mold in them and throw, a couple of doors in them anymore. We have to actually build a structure. Someone's got to pay to build a structure.
Yep.
That's so I'd like letting somebody build a house on your land. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. Ideally, and this is just, I've talked to other people and they feel the same way. Ideally, in my personal opinion, it would be somebody forms a nonprofit. I know there's expenses associated with that. They're relatively minimal, but you form a nonprofit and the town leases that section for $1 a year. They have their own insurance.
Yeah.
And that's the way it operates. We're just providing them a spot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely push that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, as of right now, we're just housing their money in that account and I keep track of it. You can see it is transparent on that report, but, they had a $10,000 donation. There was a $1,000 donation, a $100 donation. And I know Penny Horsefall has a GoFundMe that's, I think, raised close to 3,000, maybe over 3,000. So they've got a good start, but they need to come up with some sort of centralized leadership that's gonna
Somebody's gonna
lead
run
this.
And
Because the building's useless if nobody's gonna take charge and.
yeah, if you can't get, somebody has to lead it.
Solid waste is hard enough.
Chaos,
It's hard enough on our part, right? We get annual inspections from the DEP. I get a list of things that I need to rectify and I gotta work with my guys to make sure that they're cleaning this and doing this and this is locked up and this is done right. I don't have time to deal with this wash. I
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
think it's a great thing.
Yeah. Get their own insurance, and then you don't ever have to hear from them again. As far as, a lot of towns have this drop-off spot or a small little place where you walk in, they don't really keep track of it, so, what is the purpose of you saying you'd like a report, other than justifying it? But if it's a nonprofit, do we have to justify it to you out there?
It's a line on the solid waste report. So if they're a nonprofit and they don't want to report it, then it doesn't get reported. But if it's on our actual annual and biennial solid waste report, if we report that X amount of tons is diverted, it increases. Well, but it also, when they look at the metrics, it shows that we've recycled X amount versus, if we just don't report it, and it makes our recycling numbers look better because we're to the state.
Does that put us in line with possibly getting any grants? If that's like a recycling?
It definitely goes a long way, especially if we
Yeah.
apply for grants or if
If
we're showing that we're trying to divert as much
Yeah.
as possible.
Okay.
Without that,
Yeah.
it looks like we recycle cardboard and metal and that's it. Well, we do recycle plastic too, but it doesn't generate any revenue because it's not worth anything and nobody wants to buy glass. So, so it's just a line in my report that I have to do, and I did notice that the lines specifically show it increases our recycling rate. Does it have to be there? No, but it is a line on there.
And now, if it was complicated things, to the volunteers, and a lot, like I said, I have dropped off millions of things there, and they've never even went in the building, they've like, for my truck, someone else's truck.
Right.
Without ever getting weighed or whatever, so I don't know, I mean, yeah, it's nice. to Keep track of what clothes and dishes and the thing, but the big stuff is usually in and out of there.
And a lot of it's an estimate, right? Because
Right.
they're not putting your couch on top of a scale to see how much it weighed. They're estimating it weighs X amount of pounds. Yep.
Yeah, and it's, whether it's a nonprofit or not, like, it will require the right leadership, and then ultimately, if they're not functioning there, I guess if they have, if whoever runs the swap shop has their own policies, we're gonna have to have some jurisdiction over, because they're our tenants. So if they're, like, they can't just be like, well, if they got a nonprofit now, we can just let them.
There would be a lease involved.
Yeah, because it can't be no holds barred, because, I mean, there's all kinds of nonprofits that can't run worth a hill of beans,
Yeah,
you know
no.
what I mean, that have no leadership, and yeah, cool, you did the paperwork and you're a nonprofit now and you have your own liability, but still, we got 5 people parking in the way to walk into the swap shop and messing the flow of the whole entire transfer station up, you know what I mean? So
That is definitely the biggest frustration is, I mean, if another one goes in there, we're gonna have the same parking problems that we had before.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a better location in the 2 towns that could serve as it. I know it's convenient, right? Because people are going to the dump or the transfer station, they can drop it off there, but I don't know what the answer is. And that's kind of what I think after everything you guys went through, we went through, tried to pick the guy, didn't work, tried to pick another person. It just, they need to pick their own people. Yeah, no, the group, whoever that is, needs to pick their own people. Yeah. And they'll have more skin in it. I think if it's forced on them, they're not gonna, and if it doesn't go anywhere, then I don't know what to say. Pick some initiative outside of this group.
Martha?
Now I'm gonna say something.
What do you got? Let me get my phone.
I have a couple of things. I'm 100% gave money to the donation to have the talk on that, because I think it's important, and it does save the town boatloads of money, even though no way as good as we used to. Your staff, it was a little bit more structured, and we really could say, this is how much money has saved us, how many pounds gone through, we've gone way past that. My fear is, you were talking about building a structure. So who's gonna own it? Right, that's kind of like building a camp on paper mill leased land.
Right.
So when they're done, or we're not happy with them as tenants anymore, we're gonna like haul it out of there, give you a trailer on wheels, move it. Because we kind of went through this a little bit fire and rescue. When everything kind of fell apart, there were claims of, we own this, you own that, you own this, you own that, and I don't want to see that happen. Because that was a mess. That was a lot of hate and discontent. So you all will have to try to think of, like, if we are gonna let them do it, what are we gonna allow them to put there? Because if it all falls apart, then we as the tenants, the tenants, we don't like our tenants anymore, and we evict them.
Right.
what's gonna
How do you
happen?
move the structure?
How do we remove the structure?
That came through donated money. Yeah,
Right,
no, that's my
because
question for
It
sure.
went from just being Connex boxes or shipping containers, to we added on, we did, and then we didn't take care of it. And so that becomes a problem, that if we allow them on our property and then we don't make sure that our tenants are taking care of that property in there, we're gonna have to evict them again. I mean, it's one of those things that when you become, VC and lease serve, it is a responsibility, just because they have their own insurance. I work in an industry that we have general contractors and subcontractors, and I don't care that the subcontractor has their own insurance. We all have a bigger pocket. It's gonna come back to you, parking, crashes, all of that stuff. It's an attractive nuisance on that property.
You be quiet, because then they're gonna make it a town department. and-
No, I definitely don't want that, and I want you to be thinking about.
No, honestly,
A lot of people here
yeah.
really want to build something like a garage over there.
Sure.
And that's, I don't think that was the intent. But we want to move this product in and out as fast as we can.
Right.
You know, if we're talking about space and parking, maybe we could find a better spot for the trees and the brush. How much property do we own? Could we move that over a little bit more? Backfill it, push that over, then that's where the parking could be. If you wanna donate over here to the Connex boxes, you gotta park here, get out of the way. Right, because it does hold people.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to go away, just, we're gonna,
Yeah, it's not gonna, that's gonna be another difficult one, I think. Like, I just don't, like you say somebody gets 50 grand and puts up a structure, like, we're gonna, granted, we're not trying to make money off the swap shop by being there,
I mean, the town of Buckfield has a lease with the Snowmobile Club and their building is on our property too. So that's another one that
yep, and that's one of the.
I hadn't even thought about. Just not that.
I'm sorry, she asked my question more clearly. But that was definitely like, I don't see how it works. I mean, maybe there's a way, a good way. I personally, just for all, transparency, I would have made a motion probably 2 or 3 solid waste committee meetings ago to shut the swap shop down because it was a huge burden that I don't believe this committee was ever tasked with. But Azalea was really trying to breathe life into that thing and get it on track. So I kept refraining from making that motion, and it's not because I have anything against the swap shop. It's just like I didn't see it going anywhere. So sorry.
Yes, Sandra.
So I would think that this committee that is being formed that for the swap shop,
Mhm.
that the concerns that the solid waste committee has, these concerns would then go to the committee and say, okay, how are we going to handle this? That this group shouldn't have to take the time to find all of these solutions.
No.
It's up to the committee
Sure.
to bring this group
And then I guess it would
some
be this.
solutions, and then this group can say, yes, that's something that the towns could work with, or.
No, go back to the drawing board.
Right.
It's not gonna work. Yeah, I guess that would work.
It
I mean, we're not there
should not,
We're not there yet anyways, but
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. That way our expectations are met and their understanding of our expectations are met as well. And they could
it would be up to this committee to
go
have
through
this problem solving.
Yeah.
So it does not become a.
Town department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, the women that are down there now have enough to deal with than having to deal with a non-departmental structure, people, parking, anger, right, all that kind of stuff. So I've gone there and they told me, you can't leave it here. And he's like, go bring it to Goodwill, and I went, I'm here, you can't bring it in, block the door. I went, what is that dumpster? He goes, no, bring it to Goodwill. I go, go into the dumpster, so you put it in your building, first go into the dumpster. It's the way that it is, I got no time for this. So if that becomes as a taxpayer, if they're there, I want it to be donated, if not, go in the dumpster. So if, that'd be something.
Well, the price is going up. We're just kicking the can down the road anyway until it's more expensive.
The first month invoice, when we first announced the fees, I did notice, and I'd have to go back and actually look at it, but it seemed like fees over last year, or not the fees, the totals, the tipping totals declined. And I don't necessarily think that's people in town saying, I'm not gonna take stuff to the dump because there's fees. I think people outside of town that may have been abusing our transfer station or catching wind,
Yes.
they're not bringing it in, as well as some of the commercial.
Coordinate your place.
No,
You know,
I hope that people will recognize that we we're looking at those permits. We're looking at is it Red Agreed?
Yeah.
And they weren't trying to bring it in. There were plenty of times I thought commercial,
Yeah.
you have renovated your house every month for every. Give me a break, but whatever.
And you have a Lewiston transfer sticker too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the original intent obviously was to try and not circumvent, but combat some of these increases. But obviously the primary approach was go after some of that illegal use and put a stop to it. And I think just the announcement of it alone has started to play a fact into it. And if we continue with it, I think it'll be better, but we'll see. Only time will tell.
Yes, Michelle?
Have a small tube TV. How much is the fee on that?
There isn't one.
Okay.
Go around the page.
Gotta make room. All right. Any further other business? Nope. All right, so I'll make a motion that we adjourn at 7:19 PM.
Seconded.
All those in favor? All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
So,